Last night on News at 10, we reported an appeal for more funding for Alzheimer's research, and we saw the disease's devastating effects, not only on the hundreds of thousands of people who develop it, but on the families who care for them. But where is research leading? Is there any possibility of a cure for Alzheimer's disease? For this second special report on Alzheimer's Awareness Week, Vernon Mann talked to scientists who believe that missing brain cells could one day be replaced with new ones grown in the laboratory.
Exploring the brain, scientists say, is like travelling in space. Much remains to be discovered, including the precise causes and one day, hopefully, a cure for Alzheimer's disease.
The biggest single risk factor for Alzheimer's disease and for some of the other forms of dementia too is age. If we could slow the onset of symptoms of this disease by even 5 years, that would halve the number of patients around with Alzheimer's disease.
There is excitement that progress has been made in identifying genetic risk factors and some strands of the complex pathological processes which lead to Alzheimer's.
This is a slice of brain taken from a 70-year-old man, and the pathologists here say it's much as it should be in a man of that age. This is a slice also taken from a man aged 70, but that man was suffering from Alzheimer's disease, and you really can see how the brain has shrunk. There are great holes in it.
The task is to find out just why brain cells die. Donor brains here in Newcastle are examined, classified, then snapped, frozen in liquid nitrogen. Then stored in one of 10 big chest freezers, a brain bank, 1,000 samples for the use of researchers all over the world. In Cambridge, Dr. Sarah Jane Richards has taken brain cells from a marmoset monkey and is growing them in a culture tray like seedlings. Within perhaps 3 years, she hopes to be growing human brain cells and using them to fill in the memory gaps of people with Alzheimer's.
What we're trying to do is to replace those cells in the brain that die in Alzheimer's disease with a population of young and healthy cells.
You're actually growing brain cells?
Yes, that's right. In tissue culture, we're amplifying them in culture, and then we're collecting sufficient cells to replace those cells that have died in the patient.
A vital new development is a three-dimensional brain imaging technique which enables doctors to diagnose Alzheimer's and CJD much earlier than ever before. The first step is a brain scan. Roy Hansford, who has Alzheimer's, had his first scan 3 months ago. A computer will be used to exactly superimpose his second scan on the first one, so doctors can accurately assess how much the brain has shrunk in the meantime.
As the brain shrinks, so the spaces increase, and that's what we look for. We try and measure.
Dr. Nick Fox explains the procedure to Roy Hansford's wife, June.
You know, it's quite sort of sad really when you think, you know, he was so, you know, fairly normal, as you might say, and then all of a sudden you get this, you know.
On the computer, meanwhile, the scans are matched up.
All this red is tissue that has been lost in the months between the two scans.
Doctors will now be able to literally see whether new drugs patients take are slowing down brain shrinkage or not.
What we want to do is we want to use them on people who are in the earliest stages, when there's most to save, and perhaps there's a best possibility of saving it. And we can pick out, if we can pick out those drugs that slow the disease, that will be a major breakthrough.
Researchers are confident that in a few years' time they will be able to slow down the onset of symptoms, but admit that though they understand much more about Alzheimer's disease now, a cure is still not yet in sight. Vernon Mann News at 10 at the National Hospital in London.